Greetings once more, dear friends. Fanatical Dragon back once again, and today is movie review time for a brand new movie. Today's Friday the 11th of October, and Cine Asia are bringing The Stuntman to selected UK cinemas from today. And really this video is to help you decide whether or not you should track it down if it's showing at a cinema near you. We'll cut straight to the chase. Yes, you absolutely should. I'm giving it 2 thumbs way up for the movie, though maybe not quite for the reasons that you may be expecting. And that's kind of one of the things that I think we should get into first, and get the Twilight of the Warriors walled in elephant out of the room, because I'm seeing an awful lot of comparisons between the two movies in the marketing, both here in the UK and across in China. And it's understandable why. I mean, the films share the same producer, Angus Chan. They share the same cinematographer. Cinematographer for this was Chen Siu-kyung, and they share 3 cast members. So we're getting Philip Leung, we're getting Terrance, and we're getting Cecilia, Choi, all of whom were in Twilight of the Warriors. But comparing the two movies is, I think, a disservice to Stuntman. It's essentially like watching a boxing match between a featherweight and a super heavyweight. They're both fighters, but they're in very different categories of fighter, and that is also true of these two movies. They're both movies, but they're very different movies. Twilight of the Warriors, I would absolutely say, is an action drama. I think Stuntman is a drama about making action movies, and that might sound like I'm just trying to be clever with words, but it's a very clear distinction between the two. Please don't go into Stuntman expecting that you're going to be seeing wall-to-wall action as you saw in Walled In. It's really not essentially that type of movie. This is much more of a drama. It's a very well put together drama, but it is nonetheless first and foremost a drama. It's a drama about making movies. I think a much more accurate comparison would be to the documentary from 2020, Hong Kong Stuntmen Never Say No, and I think the film is very knowingly referencing that particular era of Hong Kong cinema, right down to Philip Ng at one point quoting that documentary title. He literally says at one point, back in the day, stuntmen never say no, right?
嗰個年代啲武師 never say no.
And I think that is really the era of filmmaking that the film is examining, both in flashback back to kind of, I think we're in the mid-90s in some of the flashbacks, and then through to kind of current day. At this point I'm going to drop in a little kind of wee quick synopsis, and we'll take a look at the trailer. Lee Sam, who's been played by Stephen Tung Wei, was the undisputed king of stunt choreography during the golden era of Hong Kong action cinema in the 1980s. After a devastating stunt accident, Sam steps away from the industry for 30 years. However, his old friend, a veteran director, has now persuaded Sam to work as the stunt choreographer on what will be the director's last film. The only catch is that this film stars Wei, Sam's former stunt crew member who has since become a famous action star in his own right. Wei has been played by Philip Ng. Sam and Wei have a contentious history, with Sam's infamously overbearing and demanding personality clashing with Wei's own ego and ambition. By chance, Sam crosses paths with a young, ambitious stuntman named Lee Leung, played by Terrance, who sees this as an opportunity to advance his career. Leung is caught between Sam and his former protege turned rival Wei. At the same time, Leung helps Sam to reconcile with his estranged daughter Cherry, played by Cecilia, Choi. As Sam returns to the world he once dominated, he must confront his past, mend fences with Wei, and overcome their personal conflicts. As the pressure mounts and the stakes rise, Sam must decide what he's truly fighting for, reclaiming his former glory or reconnecting with the daughter he's taken for granted. Now, I think if you go into this with your eyes open and expecting it for what it is, which is very much unashamedly a drama, it's a very well put together drama. Once you kind of look underneath the surface a little bit, or underneath the hood at how the movie was put together, I think my own kind of admiration and my own kind of respect for what our directors, and it's a pair of brother directors, it's Albert and Herbert Leung, have directed the movie. This is their debut. It's the first time they've directed a feature film, and it was put together by massive amounts of assistance from the First Feature Film Initiative in Hong Kong, who on average, I don't know the exact budget for this, but generally the First Feature Film Initiative give about 8 million Hong Kong dollars. Now, for comparison, Twilight of the Warriors had a budget in excess of 300 million Hong Kong dollars. Twilight of the Warriors took about 120, 130 days to shoot. Stuntman had 19 days to shoot. 13 of those 19 days they used to film action, and there is absolutely some action elements in the film, but bear in mind that you're watching it from the point of view of those action sequences being shot. So it's much more about really the trials and tribulations of being a stuntman, which is why I think the documentary Hong Kong Stuntmen Never Say No is a much, much more comparable comparison. You're basically kind of watching a live action deconstruction of what those stuntmen went through in the 1980s, but brought up to date in a kind of slightly more contemporary setting. So Stephen Tung Wei is unashamedly and does a very good job of leading and driving the film. Philip Ng and Terrance are very much kind of support stars. Really, I think it's largely Stephen Tung Wei's character's story that we're kind of looking at, and how he is having to kind of come to terms with the fact that maybe the way that they did stuff in the 1980s was not necessarily the most beneficial for those involved, and certainly it had tragic consequences, as we see in the beginning of the film, with a really very well realised kind of little mini tribute back to late 80s, early 90s era Hong Kong action cinema, specifically Police Story. There's a nice little section kind of filmed in a shopping mall that is very reminiscent of Police Story 1. And he's basically having to kind of come to terms with the fact that the way that they used to do things was pretty reckless, quite irresponsible, and a lot of people got hurt physically and also got hurt emotionally, and that's really what the kind of core of his relationship with his estranged daughter is speaking to as well. And Cecilia Choi didn't have a huge amount to do in Twilight of the Warriors. She played the kind of ill-fated mother of the young girl, who I don't want to spoil if you haven't seen Twilight of the Warriors, but she's not in Twilight of the Warriors that much. She's got a little bit more to do here, and so the part that she's playing, Cherry, Stephen Tung Wei's character's daughter, really their relationship is a pretty integral, central part of the narrative of the film, and he's kind of having to come to terms with the fact that he's chosen his career really over trying to look out for his family. Understandably so, to a degree, when you kind of see how things unfold in the film, and they kind of wrestle with that dilemma that he has, and ultimately it's him encountering Terrance Lau's character that makes him kind of start to reflect that maybe the old style way of doing things isn't necessarily the best way of doing things. I thought the movie was maybe going to go in a slightly different direction in relation to Terrance Lau, where I was kind of hoping that maybe there would be a way of kind of presenting a newer path that we are seeing currently in Hong Kong cinema, where they are making action movies in Hong Kong, and they're doing it in a way where by and large no one's really getting hurt the way that they used to back in the 80s and 90s. I think kind of things are a little bit more responsible, and technology's allowed us to do things a little bit more safely than was the case back then, and also budgets helped out too. I don't often get picked to do these little poster quotes, but I wrote one in this instance because I think I've seen loads that are saying loaded with action, and I think that's a bit unfair to the film. My little quote for the back of the box would be that it's a heartfelt, dramatic commentary on the frequently reckless nature of stunts in 80s Hong Kong action cinema. But it is first and foremost a drama. But it's a really good drama. So if you are happy with the idea of seeing movies that aren't just action movies flat out, then you'll find an awful lot here to enjoy. The main performances by all four of our leads are incredibly good, particularly Stephen Tung Wei. He has been a director, an action choreographer, a stunt choreographer, and a writer at times in his own right, and has had a pretty storied career, worked on a huge number of productions, was action choreographer for John Woo on A Better Tomorrow. He's in Hard Boiled, directed Jet Li's Hitman, directed Magic Cop, which we recently see getting a Blu-ray release here in the UK. So he has certainly lived that life, and I think the two directors themselves were also stunt performers. So I think it's semi-autobiographical in a way, where they are kind of speaking to some of their experiences. And certainly I think Terrance Lau's character, I get the sense, is probably the one that's closest to the brother's own experiences, because he's having to come to terms with, is this a life that he wants to pursue? And he has his own kind of conflict with his elder brother, who really wants him to just get a normal, regular, safe, kind of conventional job, really kind of working for a delivery company, and is sort of setting him up with the opportunity to do so. But he is conflicted and kind of wants to try and follow his own path, wants to try and emulate the movies that he grew up adoring in the 1980s and the 1990s. He kind of wants to kind of see if he has what it takes to be a stuntman and to make those sorts of films. And then Philip Ng's character really is one who has been there from the beginning and seen how things used to be done, now has his own stunt team, a la kind of Jackie Chan style stunt team, and is trying to do things a lot more responsibly. So I don't think he's really particularly the villain. There's no real battle or struggle in that sense. No one's a bad guy in this movie, right? We just have people basically kind of coming to terms with the fact that they are perspectives aren't always the same. And I think there's one particular sequence that I don't want to spoil for you, because it's kind of one of the sort of key action sequences that I suspect probably took the largest chunk of their filming to do, and that's very well staged and has kind of really quite dramatic consequences for all the characters involved in the film and how that unfolds. Technically there's actually two. One is in the flashback and then kind of one's in the present day, but both have been really, really very well staged and very well shot. The fact that they did all of this in 19 days is mind-blowing to me, and the fact that most of those days they had to use to kind of film the action sequences they got means that for what is largely a dramatic film, they did most of that in less than a week, and that's what forms the core of the movie. And that's incredibly impressive, because the performances that they've captured, presumably without having a huge amount of takes or a huge amount of time to do it, are really heartfelt and kind of really well performed and really well acted. It's always a treat seeing Philip Ing on screen, and he gets to kind of flex in a slightly different way than we've seen him do before. It's a very different part than we saw him in Walled In. He's not playing anything like as bombastic or flamboyant a character as King, but his character of Y is really well rounded, and I think he does a really good job actually for the scenes that he has. Terrance is also phenomenal and very, very different to how we saw him last in Walled In 2. There's a lot more kind of hope and optimism, really, and for me, the kind of hope for Hong Kong's cinematic future kind of comes through his sort of perspective, where he wants to make exciting, dynamic, kind of vibrant action sequences, but he wants to do it safely, right? And he doesn't want people to get hurt in the process, and he's ultimately able to kind of try and steer Sam onto a slightly better way of interacting with people on set, and a slightly safer way of actually kind of getting the shots that they need. And I think those little sequences are where the film really shines. I loved the dynamic and the relationship between Stephen Tung Wei and his daughter. That's kind of probably where the beating heart of the film is, and I think that's the place and the scenes that I'll probably remember the longest, actually. I think there was quite a lot of beats there that were genuinely just really heartfelt and really well performed. So I think I've rambled on for long enough. All I can really say is I think if you go into this with your eyes open, expecting it for what it is, which is a great movie about making movies, and specifically a great movie that speaks to the experiences of stunt performers who rarely kind of really get sort of heralded or get enough credit, respect or attention for the work that they do. They're so often kind of the kind of faceless performers who back up the main actors, and it's really nice kind of seeing their kind of life and the impact on that life portrayed in such a real, down-to-earth and honest way, particularly in some of the ones who don't walk away from those situations, right? And I think that's again one of the things that the movie takes great pains to be very respectful, but also kind of very kind of dramatic about its approach to displaying and showing us, and that was really engaging too. So I think I'm not surprised that my good friends Leon and Shaz absolutely adored this movie. I think they maybe adored this movie slightly more than I did. I think Leon enjoyed this more than he did Walled In, which was not the case for me. I adore Walled In. I've seen that probably half a dozen times at this point. I will absolutely be going to see the Stuntman again. I'd like to see it on the big screen, and we've got a friend from Hong Kong who stays in Edinburgh now, and she's going to be coming with us, and we'll all kind of go down and see the movie on the big screen. And I think it's going to be really kind of rewarding getting a chance to see it again with a little bit more of an actual perspective of what I'm going into, because I think if you step into this expecting, like I say, that it's going to be a Walled In Part 2 in terms of action, you're going to probably be a bit disappointed. But if you go into this expecting to see a very well made, really great debut from two kind of new emerging filmmakers, then I think you'll find an awful lot here to enjoy and to love. I'm also going to post a link underneath to Hayley Scanlon's Windows on Worlds website, which I cannot get enough of. Hayley Scanlon, a far more articulate and verbose kind of writer on film than I could ever be. And she wrote a really, really good review of the movie, one that I think is the best review that I have actually seen of the movie in terms of giving you a great summary of what it is, what it's trying to say. And just, you should be checking out Hayley Scanlon's website anyway. Windows on World's phenomenal, particularly for Japanese cinema as well. She writes extensively about Japanese movies, so it's usually my kind of first go-to place if I'm kind of trying to research a movie that's coming up, or if I kind of want to do a little bit of a kind of background research on maybe an older movie, because 9 times out of 10 Hayley Scanlon's checked it out first and written pretty extensively about it. So yeah, please check out Hayley Scanlon's website. Check out Leon and Shaz's review if you want a much more glowing review of the movie than I feel I was maybe able to give. I've tried to kind of be as honest and open as I can about it. Eternal thanks to Cine Asia for even allowing me the chance to review this before it came out of the cinema, for sending me a screening link, and also huge kudos to Cine Asia for bringing us this just a week after it opened in Hong Kong. This only opened on the 3rd of October in Hong Kong, and we're getting it here in the UK on the 11th, which is damn impressive, right? It's incredible that they're bringing new Hong Kong cinema to us, and that's, I think, if you only go and see it purely just to support the fact that we're getting to see new Hong Kong movies at the cinema, do it for that reason, because we're going to get more of them, right? And I think the more of us that actually put bums on seats, the better. And too many fans, particularly in the physical media world, only ever pick up the same 1980s and 1990s movies again and again and again as they're re-released again and again and again, and for some reason have this weird prejudice about seeing new movies that are coming out of Hong Kong, and even more so coming out of mainland China. And Cine Asia are really the only label that we have here at the forefront of bringing us brand new movies, and bringing us them very quickly, and usually doing their best to bring them out on physical media if they can too. And not just mainland China and Hong Kong, they've also done Korean cinema, and I think they've stepped into a few examples of Japanese cinema as well over the years too. So I think massive respect to Cine Asia, and to all of you, I would implore you to definitely get off your butts and go and find it if it is screening at a cinema near you. There are a number of different dates available and a number of different screenings available. Don't think it's going to have as long a run as Walled-In did, so if you are kind of on the fence about it, hopefully this has tipped you over towards wanting to go and check it out, and please do so quickly. So go and give it a great opening weekend. Go and check it out over the weekend if you can, if it's showing near you. And I have rambled too long enough, so I will thank you again for making it to the end if you have. I've been the Fanatical Dragon, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.